Your life is a one-time ticket. No practice rounds, no refunds. So I'm going to ask you a question this morning. Are you just doing life or are you actually enjoying the ride? This week on the Lead with Hope podcast, we dive into how to stop sweating the small stuff, show up fully, and ensure that your life's ride is one worth remembering. Before we get started, I want to thank our legacy partner, Craig Williams, founder of Commissary. At Spark Hope, we believe story matters because story shapes how we lead, how we connect, and how we show up in the world. Commissary helps authors and leaders bring clarity to their story and confidence to their voice so that their brand truly reflects who they are. You can learn more about their work by visiting the link in today's show notes or on the Spark Hope website. Thank you, Commissary, for supporting the Lead with Hope podcast. Welcome to the Lead with Hope podcast. I'm your host, Brandy Kelly. And on this show, we explore the power of hope in leadership and in life. Joining me today is Cyndy Walsh Rintzler. She is the VP of Programs and Services at Inroads to Opportunities. With over 20 years in vocational rehabilitation, Cyndy is a leading advocate for individuals with disabilities. She is dedicated to fostering inclusive communities, sustainable employment, and independent living skills. Her leadership has been recognized with the Access New Jersey 2019 Star Award, and appointments to the State Rehabilitation Council and the Union County Development Workforce Board. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
Cyndy, it's a pleasure to have you on the show, and I'm looking forward to getting to know a little bit more about you and your story. So why don't we start there? Tell us who you are. I did a brief intro, but there's so much more to unpack.
So I'm a mom of four. I work here at Inroads to Opportunities. When I was graduating college, I wanted to get my feet wet in the real world before I went for my master's. And I thought back when there's a newspaper ads, I applied to this little tiny ad and I came here and I fell in love with the place. Like you just feel that connection. And I thought this will be a good place to get experience and to make sure this is really the field for me. I've been here. It'll be 29 years next month. And I started in a small entry-level position. I went for my master's, got my license in counseling and grew with the agency. And so now I'm the VP of Programs and Services. I've worked in every department. We have a plethora of options here. We really try to individualize our services. So I've worked in all the departments, and now I work with the directors of those departments to try and provide the best services we can to our population.
So I'm curious. At the intro of the show, I talked about the fact that as we're going through life and in our leadership, we want to make sure we're actually enjoying the road. And I believe in my time as a social worker all the way to superintendent, the kids taught me so much. So I'm curious, when you think about your clients, what do your clients teach you about enjoying that ride?
So Inroads works with teens through retirement age individuals with disabilities, a wide range, predominantly developmentally disabled, but we also have individuals here with mental illness, dual diagnosis, physical impairments. And what they've taught me over the years is resilience and optimism. We work with individuals who come from some very low income and struggling areas on top of their disability, and the joy that they bring into this agency each day that they share with us, how they view the world and all the good they see. It kind of makes, people talk about first world problems and, oh, well, that's the first, and all problems are valid and deserve, their due attention. But it's kind of hard for me to get stuck in the negative when you see people who are struggling so much more than me, who just see the joy in each day. And I've kind of over the years I've come up with the kind of mantra for myself that I've got one ticket on this ride called life.
Right.
And to use it wisely for myself, but for those I serve too. What can I do I don't know. No ride I've ever been on has been fun to do it alone.
No.
You're screaming on a roller coaster. You're screaming with your pal next to you.
Yeah.
And it just makes the thrill so much bigger, right? So much more intense. And so that's always been my mantra. Things are getting tough. You're just feeling weighed down.
Mm-hmm.
I've got one ticket on this ride. All right. So where's my silver lining? What am I doing here? And kind of it helps me to refocus. And
Yeah.
so I think that's what they've brought to my world over the years.
I love that. It's the little things, right? It's the little things in our life that are really the big things. And they teach you how to find joy in the journey. That's what my students did for me. They taught me that the important things were just like the pictures I see behind you on the wall, Cyndy. Yeah, I see your degrees too, but the things that really stick out to me as I am looking at that display behind you, I love you. Good things will happen if you try. I mean, they're teaching us every single day in those small ways to enjoy the journey. And that, like you said before, we weren't created to do this life alone. We are created to be in relationship and to support and to lift one another up. So that is a beautiful reminder as we start this episode of the Lead with Hope podcast. If you were to reflect on your journey, what life lessons have had the biggest impact on you in this journey?
On this journey, I think the biggest life lesson has really for me been consistency and showing up. There's days it's hard. There's days where, you feel a little beaten down or you feel like this is too big of a task to take on. This is nerve-wracking. I have a pit in my stomach. But you show up and you're consistent and you're there. I know when I first when I first became a manager, which I joke that the CEO at the time, my mentor, kind of twisted my arm to become a manager. It wasn't a step I took lightly. And when I went into it, I kept telling her I can't. I'm a worker bee. I'm not a leader. I'm a worker
Right,
bee.
right.
And I had babies at home and it was just and I kept doing for my team. Like, I got it. Let me take care of that. You're busy. Let me do this. It's just easier for me to do it than to show you how to do it, which was wild because I spent all my years training individuals with disabilities how to do things.
Yeah.
But here I am for my staff going, no, 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 I got it. I don't have time to show you. And that just fell apart. You can't, so I stuck with it. I was consistent with, I've got to make changes and I've got to work with my team. And over the years, I've kind of gone from do it for you to empower you because I've learned the more I empower the people around me, the better we'll all be, the farther we'll all go, and the easier, more collaborative and easier the trip will be.
I absolutely love that from a leadership development lens. Most of the people listening to this podcast are educators, they're leaders, they're helping professionals. And so when you think about consistently empowering your people, building capacity, for those listening today, if they're struggling like you were and they are the worker bee and they just keep doing and giving and they're headed towards burnout, because that's where you're going to go. If you keep on that road, you're going to hit burnout. What is the first right step to switch that, to change your mindset or your paradigm and start empowering people consistently?
For me, I really had to sit down with my team and I wouldn't say it was like a formal like team bonding day. We played games. It wasn't like that. There were really some very hardcore one-to-one meetings and group meetings where it was like, like I had to apologize. I was not trusting you with this. It wasn't intentional. But one of the things that in the field, my mentor growing up in the field, one of the things she always really emphasized was the dignity of risk
Yeah.
and that, individuals with disabilities, just like any other person, deserves the dignity of risk, of just being able to go out there and try. You might fail, but that's part of life. And I really had to bring that back to my team they deserve the dignity of risk of trying to do it on their own.
Yeah.
It might work out great. It might crash and burn. I'm here to support you. And so it started out slow
Mm-hmm.
and it took a lot of reinforcement and a reminding and
Yeah.
standing behind them and just like kind of cheering them on from the background, a text message saying like, I know you have this today. I'm out of the office, but I'm a text away, but you've got this.
Yeah.
And that's two of my daughters are cheerleaders. One, she had a coach for a while who, before they would go out for competition, she would just pump them up. And you've got this. She'd make them chant it, you've got this. And I really like started just texting that out to my team.
Mhm.
You've got a hard meeting today.
Yeah.
I'm here if you need to call me in. but I want you to try it. You've got this.
Yeah.
And so it started out real slow, but it's an expectation now. It's,
Mhm.
and they'll tease me. They'll go, "No, I don't want to got this." I'll say,
Right.
"Okay, but I'm empowering you. You got this."
Yeah.
And just kind of like you chuckle. They'll chuckle. We'll
Yeah.
chuckle and they'll go and they got it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, sometimes it's a risk and it bombs a little bit. We grow from that.
That is absolutely how we learn. And I love the way you framed that with the dignity of risk because we need to put language to it. And if that's an expectation, you've got to share that. You've got to articulate what your expectation is. And what I'm hearing you say, Cyndy, is that the expectation is you are going to try hard things. And sometimes you're going to be successful, and sometimes you're going to learn a lesson. But either way, I'm going to offer what we call in the counseling world unconditional positive regard.
Yes.
I'm
But
going to be there to support you and to help you. And if you fail, dust you off and provide that belief and that encouragement that you need to keep moving forward. Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
That's 100%. That's what it is.
And as the
Yeah.
leader, it starts with your mindset. It starts with the way that you see the world, the lens through which you see the world, and then how you can begin to put language to those expectations. So, talk to us a little bit about the role of your mindset in getting through that paradigm shift for you.
So mindset, it really goes to that. It's so simple it's that one, you've got this one ticket.
Hmm. Yeah.
I've got no tattoos, but I always joke that I'm going to get a little tattoo of a ticket on my hand here because it's that reminder. You've got this one ticket, right? So I had started when I started accepting that I was in the management position and embracing it because, like I said, I was twisted and my arm was twisted. I took it on and I fought it for a little while. When I accepted that I'm management now and we're doing this the right way as
Hmm.
best I can,
Yeah.
my own dignity of risk.
Yeah.
I started coming up with a word every year. In this field, like schools, like everywhere, I'm sure we all deal with so many regulatory bodies.
Yeah.
So many rules to follow and so many and some years are just like, oof, this is your accrediting year. This is your licensure year and everyone is breathing down your back and wants everything. And so, I've got this one ticket and I'd have a word and it would be like hope. I'm finding hope or silver linings. I'm looking for silver lining, positivity, and where's the positivity? And I would, for that year, I'd kind of, where we're all coming up with our New Year's resolutions, I'm just adding to my mantra list, like, okay, we got this. So I was able to make that shift. Like I said, it was a slow moving ship. Like we turned slowly, but really by adopting these, I can make a mistake and I can crash and burn and I can let my team know. My team knows I'm not afraid of letting them know when I'm nervous. Like, guys, this is terrifying, but we got to do this.
Yeah.
And because we're all human, we get nervous, we get anxious, we're terrified sometimes, we're psyched sometimes. And if we just keep my other mantra with my staff is we're doing this for the people we serve. We are serving a population, they need us. And so as long as they're at the forefront of what we're doing, whether we are dealing with licensure or dealing with a really angry customer or we're going to be positive. We're going to, it's going to be okay. And we're going to go home tonight and we're going to make dinner with our kids. Maybe we're going to go to a band concert at the elementary school and life goes on. And it's just giving yourself that grace.
Hmm.
And then I had to learn how to give myself that grace
Yeah.
and be truthful with my team.
Mhm.
So my team, they joke all the time. Oh, I sometimes I have to go. Part of what I do is advocacy. So I might go speak at the State House, or I might go speak to. We do a day at the Hill every once or twice a year down in D.C. and advocating for our participants and testifying to the state senate is not my cup of tea. I'm nerve wracked doing it, but it's what I have to do. So I just put on that hat. I accept that I'm nervous. They know it, and they're like, "No, you're outgoing." I am doing a really good job on this one ticket to let you know, to let you think I'm outgoing. Because on the inside, I'm terrified. But and it's good for them to know. They give me the support. Just like when they are having like the support, I'm there for them.
It all starts with that mindset, like I said before, and listening to you share about the way you frame this life That one ticket and adopting a word or a mantra every year is powerful. I've been doing the John Gordon one word challenge every year for the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. And this year, my focus is on love.
Love that.
Because people can be hard to love, but that is where leadership starts. We have to love the people that we lead, the people that we serve. And that's really what you pointed to here. We're doing this for the people we serve. But Cyndy, that mindset piece that you're talking about, giving yourself grace first and foremost. I don't know about you, but I am most critical in my own head. It's a challenge.
My word this year is grace, to give myself grace.
Then the next step is acceptance, because sometimes we are stuck because we are fighting against our circle of no control. And if we accept that in this world, there's going to be trouble, things are not always going to go the way we want them to go. And sometimes we are going to fail. Just that acceptance that things are not always going to be the way that we want them to be. And then vulnerability. That's hard for some people. Being vulnerable and honest, and when you mess up, owning it and just saying, guys, I'm sorry, but I really messed this one up, and I'm going to need your help.
Yeah.
It's a skill.
That's a skill. That's a hard one too. And I found it easier as a worker bee to be able to go to my boss, my mentor, go like, I don't know what I did. Or I don't know why I did this, or I thought this was the right thing to do, but oh no, it took time as a leader.
Yeah.
I wasn't really giving myself the grace at the time to realize that the leader I had, she had years of experience to get there. And she had, I know she had her own feelings of inadequacy, like that's just so natural. And I saw her on this pedestal. I can't do that. So it took a while to realize like, nope, she was here once and I'm here and it's gonna work out. Try your best. That's all you can do.
Yeah, and it requires courage. And courage is a choice. You can choose to be hopeful and courageous by just stepping out and doing that next right thing. And like you said, you may not be the leader that your predecessor was. You're going to have strengths and weaknesses that she didn't have, but you're going to shine by being authentically who you are. Yeah.
Yep.
Let's pause for just a moment, because I want to tell you about a partner who truly aligns with the heart of this podcast, Commissary. Here on Lead with Hope, we talk a lot about clarity of purpose, clarity of voice, and clarity of direction. And that's exactly where Commissary comes in. They help leaders, educators, and change makers uncover the story behind their work and share it in a way that feels honest, meaningful, and deeply aligned with who they are. If you've ever felt the nudge to write a book, refine your message, or build a brand that actually reflects your values, not just your resume, Commissary doesn't rush you or box you in. They walk alongside you, helping you shape your story with intention and integrity. A big thank you to Craig Williams and Commissary for being a legacy sponsor of this podcast and for investing in stories that matter. Because when we share our stories with clarity and hope, real change happens. So thinking about that, Cyndy, what habits have you cultivated to help you to be the leader that you're meant to be?
You have kids, life is busy. And so I have a lot of structure in my day, but a few years ago, one of my words was adaptable and followed by flexible. And so, I do have these consistent habits. I have my morning wake up routine. I have my check in with my kids, and I've incorporated as a leader the check in with my staff. Setting myself a reminder when I know one of my staff, personal life or work life, most often work life, but even, occasionally the personal life just is going through something like, oh, your daughter is having that procedure today. Just letting you know, I'm sending you a thought what we do is more than just a paycheck. It's, you spend a lot of hours here, and you're putting a lot of yourself out there and to embrace who you are and to support you. But even, most especially the work stuff. Like, I know you have that, big meeting today, just, you got this. And so it's become a habit to check in with my team. The beauty of that for me, selfishly, they check in with me, and I let them know often, I think, I hope, maybe I'll be more cognizant of that, that I do truly appreciate that because, we're all just kind of inside sometimes still that 15-year-old, like, "What am I doing in this world?" Right? You have that moment in your head where you're like, "The world's huge." So it's good to be checked in on too. But consistency is my habit, how I interact with my participants every day, checking in with my staff, being available. When I was getting ready for this podcast, I have a sign on my door. It was like a big no sign. I had two staff come in and you could see they're so confused because I have a doors always open policy. Where we are, like a lot of places, there's not a lot of extra free time during the day. You need something, you need it right away. My door's open. You can come. This is a safe place. Come in. Do you
Mhm.
need to vent? Do you need to run an idea past me? Do you need to get some data that I have? What do you need to support you? So yeah, it was entertaining, a little bit nerve-wracking too, but it was entertaining that you could see the look of confusion that there's a sign on my door that my door is locked. Like,
Yeah.
what? So the habits are small, simple little things, but they set my wake up routine every day, my dinner routine, my family. We have sit down dinner every night. Not everybody can make it every night. Some of my kids are grown, some of my kids are teens, part-time jobs and extracurriculars get in the way, but mom and dad are there, 4 to 5 work nights a week. If it's not, it's a big deal. It's on the calendar because that's our habit to have that space to connect. And I think it's good for my kids, which is why I instituted it. But really, again, it's kind of like checking with my staff. It's benefited me
Right.
because, it's good for me to have that whatever happens during the day, whatever's going on, it's important, but I can put it on a shelf for a minute and I can be present there. And that kind of helps keep me focused and moving in the right direction, I think.
What I'm hearing you say, Cindy, is that consistency and connection are your key habits.
Yes.
I love the dinner routine. That is something that I think is missing in a lot of our homes right now. And I'll add one thing to that: dinner routine needs to be technology free. No cell phones, no computers, no TVs, just personal human connection where you tell me about your day, you tell me about what went well, what you struggled with, and we really connect as human beings. It's a skill that we need to cultivate, especially in our kids, but I also think it's one that we're missing in adult relationships these days as well.
Yeah. It's growing up. I'm part of a big family, but I was kind of a surprise baby, so there's a big gap, and my family wasn't able to do that growing up. I mean, my siblings had all been off to college and moving out when I was still really young, but then my father passed and I had a single mom and she had to work nights. And so she did have that connection in other ways, but the family dinner, in a lot of ways, I was kind of also partly a little bit raised, nothing against my mom, who's amazing, but a little bit also raised by TV,
Yeah.
and seeing what happened on Family Ties and The Cosby Show and those dinner time. And that was so important to me. I saw my friends had it and I saw, and I really that was so important. And so, yeah, it was a no brainer to do it with my kids. And it's really the connection, like you said, it means the world to me. And, they can invite friends over. I love when they invite friends over. I mean, some of their friends, my oldest daughter's best friend, her mom and I joke that we co-parent,
Yeah.
because it takes a village, right? And she's getting stuff from my daughter that I'm not being privy to, getting the information, vice versa. And we're there to support them and we trust each other. And I remember the first time she came over, she's an only child. And she was so confused. I mean, here we are. I have 4 kids at the dinner table, my husband and I. My mom was living with me at the time. It's big, it's raucous.
Yeah.
And she sat there, this only child, and she was like, "It's so quiet." And I thought, "There's nothing quiet about this." But, her parents work in TV production, and so they always have, like, a TV show on, a podcast, and they're very connected. They have other ways of connecting, but it was very funny to me to see the world from that different perspective. And she became a regular at our family dinner nights. We'd see her every once a week, every other week at least. She'd pop in and would sometimes lead the conversation. It was kind of fresh air, but she would lead the conversation. And so the connection it grew to friends and families as well.
Yeah.
And it's invaluable.
Definitely. habits like that, cultivating habits that are really meaningful for you. I frequently say that we are perfectly positioned to help the person or the people that we once were. And so, with what you have done, just with something simple like that family dinner, sometimes our successes and the things that went well in our life inform what we want to do in the future. Sometimes it was things that didn't feel so good to us that help us to do better for ourselves and our families and the people we lead. And that's exactly what you've done there. You want to give your children that solid foundation that, again, no judgment, but you want it to feel a little bit different than what you had.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And one day they're going to do something similar, hopefully for their children. Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah.
So, Cyndy, when I think about your work and working with folks with mental health challenges, with disabilities, things like that, for the listeners, what do you want them to know about your work or the people that you serve? Do you have a message there?
I do. So a large part of what Inroads does is assist individuals with disabilities to reach their highest level of success. We started where it was all focused on vocational success, getting jobs out in the competitive integrated environment, the post office, the Target, the ShopRite, DPW, whatever was interesting for them. And we have a work environment here for training
Mhm.
people with their to reach those goals. And I think the biggest thing that would help them is if we all kind of understood that everyone's unique and different, but they bring gifts to the table. It's not a cookie cutter. You have to be able to do this, 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 and this. And I get it. Times are tough. Finances, right now, prices are high and we need people to do a lot, for what they're earning. But the gifts that someone with a disability, the viewpoints, the skills and talents that they can share, sometimes it takes a little bit more to see what it is, but they're there. They're so prevalent. And, so to assist someone to be able to step away from the cookie cutter and to be able to look at somebody for the talents and the skills they have and to look at, agencies like ours across the country, across the world that can provide assistance, with job coaching, with training on the job, with supports so that that person can be successful. That is to look at the individual with a disability as a unique person and not just lumped into an individual with a disability is something I would love for your listeners to take away. To kind of give them a chance and to see a little bit beyond, what is immediately visible and to look inside.
Yeah. It goes back to the lens that you see the world through, your level of self awareness. And sometimes you have to look inward and get honest with yourself and maybe make some changes. But I agree with you. I think if we could step away from that cookie cutter and expecting everybody to be in that mold and change our perspective and accept the fact that whether people have a disability or they don't have a disability, we're all different and we all have gifts, we all have talents. And there's one thing that we can always choose to do, and that is to be kind. That
Absolutely.
requires very little to be kind.
Right.
And I was talking to my aunt yesterday, and this really just stands out to me because, again, it fosters that encouragement that you were talking about earlier, that belief that you were talking about earlier. And she was remembering an individual that when she was a little girl, she had a bunch of freckles on her face and she really hated that. And he changed that for her by just saying a simple phrase. And he looked at her and he said, "You're beautiful. And the angels have kissed you. All over your face, the angels have kissed you." And for her, that changed her paradigm, that changed her mindset. And it helped her to accept herself a little bit more. And when you think about people with or without disabilities, what would it look like if we could foster that belief and give them that encouragement that they could accept themselves more, they could love themselves more, give themselves grace more? You have talked about your mentor equipping you for success in this leadership role. We have the power to do that for the people that we come into contact with every single day. And I think that's a gift. I think that is a gift that just keeps on giving.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I see it with my participants here, my staff. It's just the belief that someone sees you
Yes.
and is rooting for you, And sometimes I'm rooting for you. This is your goal in Voc Rehab. Sometimes that means that I have to kind of point out, like, what do we need to do to succeed? What do we do? What is holding us back? And to help you see that, okay, your punctuality is not so good. We're going to work on improving that. Or, you need to learn this skill. What are the foundations to that skill? How do we build it up? Sometimes it's tough love, it's
Yeah.
being honest and truthful, and we don't wanna set anyone up for failure, but it's also letting that person know there is a realistic path. If you're willing to do the work, we're willing to work with you. One of my biggest things here, like I said, Inroads started almost over 60 years ago as a vocational center, helping individuals with disabilities to work.
Right.
And we've grown over the years, and we have mental health services, we have day habilitation services, a school to work transition to help individuals who are students kind of learn 13 years in a classroom, learning the difference between a classroom and the work setting and what you need to do to succeed there. And my biggest thing has always been to help the individual define their success. I'm the youngest of six. My siblings are all business people. They're all numbers and accounting and bookkeeping. Please don't present me with numbers. I am, Einstein had that quote that was like, and I'm going to forget the exact quote now, but basically like, you can't expect a fish to climb a tree. Like that's
Right.
not, like
Yeah.
you measure genius based on the person, not on just one criteria of measurement. I mean, goodness, if I had to go into the world of numbers and bookkeeping and accounting, I don't know where I'd be. I'd be a mess. So I had to know what my measure of success
Yeah.
was. And for my staff, identifying where they see themselves in 5 years and what their measure of success is. And then leading my participants, in their care. What is their individual measure of success? And when they achieve that, what is their next measure of success?
Right.
If their goal is to be able to do a complex task independently, and it takes time, and they get there, they achieve it, we celebrate that. Now what?
Yeah.
Now what's our next goal?
Yeah.
Because we're not done with the ride. Keep going. What are
Right.
we working on next?
Mm-hmm.
So understanding, kind of goes with that cookie cutter, that we're all individual and unique. And what is your idea of success, and how can we help you get there?
Yeah. And it doesn't matter if we're talking about the participants that you work with or if we're talking about educators or leaders, we all have to get really clear on what success or excellence looks like for us. And I have a hope cycle that I work with my leaders on whenever we are going through coaching. It's a framework and we assess and envision. But as you're getting really clear on what you want, I think dreams come into play there too. We have big dreams, and sometimes we lie to ourselves because we're afraid of failure. So that's why that assess and envision is so important. And then we focus and act. We create a plan, and you do that
Right.
at Inroads. And then finally, we measure and align. We have to look at where we've come from, where we're at, and celebrate those small successes and those big successes, and then make sure everything's in alignment with our values and our vision and our mission for the future. I think the first step is just to get really clear on what you want. How do you define that success?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say our current CEO now, it's I try to learn something from everyone
Mhm.
I spend a lot of time with. And where prior it was learning about being a leader and working with our population. And now it's moving forward, like moving the company into a direction where we can expand, we can serve more people. The community has needs, and how can we help meet those needs? And so, you're saying align and measure, and that's been so new for me to learn. But I'm loving these new lessons in leadership. Really, it's been for me with our new leader, and how we can, move forward and help people in ways, that creative new ways we haven't thought of before, that is going to meet the needs of, our community here, in society in general. So
As you say, we only have one ticket. There's only one life. So while we're moving towards that vision, while we're doing all of these important things, let's not forget to enjoy the ride, enjoy the journey, find joy in the small things and the big things. So, Cyndy, as we're wrapping up this podcast episode today, I always love to ask my guest, what's giving you hope in the world right now?
So wow, there's a lot going on in the world right now, right?
Yes. Yes.
And I am I'm all about finding positivity and silver linings, but I think we have to be careful not to find toxic positivity and not to like wash it all out. But I think if we look, there's a lot of silver linings. There's a lot of people out there doing, there's Mr. Rogers had that quote about, when things are bad, look for the helpers.
Yeah.
And I think what's giving me hope is finding the helpers, finding the people who are finding joy despite whatever's going on, the studies, the research, my participants and they come into work each day and they're working on their skills and there's consistency in what they're doing. And that just kind of gives me hope that consistency just every day, every morning you just start again and you keep going with that. I had read a few years ago a book by Rutger Bregman, Humankind. He has a new book out that I've just started and it's really about like the overarching all through society, all through the history of the world where we saw really bad things were happening. There were little good things that came out of it.
Yeah.
You know? Um and people who really everyday average people who managed to find, what they may not even thought was remarkable, but a way of doing something really good. And it was a very hopeful book and it kind of sticks in my head with a Mr. Rogers quote of, there's a lot of research going on. There's a lot going on for various disabilities, autism research, dementia research, research on employment practices and options. And so from a work and academic level, I've got a lot of hope of where the future's leading. And then just on a personal level, just finding those helpers and finding those good little glimmers of hope. And it kind of powers through, helps to put everything in perspective.
There are always glimmers in our life. We just have to look for them. We have to open our eyes and look for the helpers, look for the ordinary people doing extraordinary things because they exist. And Cyndy, I'm even going to go one step further with that and say that you are one of those extraordinary people. You are doing amazing things at Inroads. So thank you for your service. Thank you for making a difference in the lives of all of the people that you work with and for. And if somebody wants to get into touch with you, they want to learn more about you or your organization, or maybe how they can support your vision and your mission, how
With
can they
that.
get in touch with you?
So Inroads, we're online at inroadsto.org, inroads2.org, and they can email me at CWALSH, at inroads2, INROADSTO.com.
Well, Cyndy, it has been such a joy to get to have this conversation with you and to learn more about Inroads. And I am grateful for this connection, grateful for the work you do, and look forward to hearing more about the work you're doing there in New Jersey.
Well, thank you so much. It's just lovely chatting with you and having this whole dialogue. I learned from it and I'm going to grow from it. So thank you.
Thank you.
You too.
That's a wrap for today's episode of Lead with Hope. Remember, the world needs your leadership, and change starts with you. Fuel your life with hope, embrace your purpose, and shine your light for others. If this episode inspired you, I'd be so grateful if you could take a moment to give us a 5-star rating and share it. Every review helps spread hope and empowers more leaders to rise. Thanks for listening, and until next time, keep leading with hope.